The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining me this Labor Day Monday evening. We got a great show lined up for you today, and we're going to jump into it right now. But first, we have a special guest tonight. Joining me live via On Location. Bow down to the Mafia Lord of all Titans fans, and let me introduce to you the Titans Mafia. Titans Mafia, welcome to the show, buddy.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good, buddy. It's great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us. We got a lot of topics to get into, and we're going to jump into them right now.
Sir.
All right, we're going to break into our NFL news right now. And starting out for the news breaking today, it appears that the Ravens are going to be working out running back Le'Veon Bell. Injuries seem to be decimating their running back position right now. And it just seems right now depth's a big question, and they really need a guy that's going to be able to start and probably tote the load for them most of the season. So how do you feel about Bell coming in and potentially toting the load for the Ravens?
This move here seems like a last-minute desperation move because, I mean, that injury kind of happened at the absolute worst time it could have happened. I mean, you got a week or so before the season starts. But I do think that having Le'Veon Bell that has that experience as a starter in the NFL for so many years, it is a safe move to make because they know he can perform at that level.
Indeed. In fact, matching up against the Las Vegas Raiders, you think that he would be able to come in and just at least try and get him at least 20 carries and maybe around 60 or 70 yards, they'd potentially have a chance at having a decent game. But especially with his on-field antics, I think a lot of teams have been kind of weary just to try and be around him, especially with the comments that he made with Andy Reid. Do you think that's one of the reasons why teams are trying to sway away from him right now?
I think it could have something to do with it. I think a lot of it had to do with how his tenure ended with the Steelers. I think a combination of those two things kind of are why NFL executives are kind of like, you know what, I don't know if I want to take a chance on him. I think it's just a combination of those two things.
But of course, right now, everything's just kind of kicking the tires right now. So eventually we'll probably find out maybe in the next few days. But if you had to take a prediction, do you think that he will end up in a Ravens jersey?
I mean, the way the Ravens are right now at running back, yeah. I mean, they don't really have that proven back, really, and the depth there to be able to not sign him. You know? I mean, I think they have to have a legitimate back that they know can perform.
But if they had to make a trade, there are definitely a lot of good backs right now, especially on rosters where you think there's not going to get a lot of carries. You think Houston might be a destination where they'd go after Mark Ingram and bring him back?
You know, I thought about that the other day. Mark Ingram ended his tenure at Baltimore in a good way. I mean, there wasn't any bad blood, I don't think. So I think they could say I'll trade for that. But we'll see. I mean, it's just the Ravens are in a bad spot, to be honest with you.
Definitely not getting off on the right foot in the running back position, like you said.
I mean, they play a game this weekend. I mean, they don't have the luxury of looking around for weeks trying to find the right guy.
Agreed. But we'll monitor that situation, and I would say maybe in a few days they'll probably come up with a solution if he is or if he will not be a Raven. Also breaking in the news today, it has already been decided that the Houston Texans will start Tyrod Taylor, and Deshaun Watson will be benched, more than likely for Game 1 and possibly for future games. Right now, this would definitely seem to be the best move, especially with the ongoing investigation, and there's so many questions unanswered. it seems best in the best interest of the team and the NFL that he does kind of take a back seat with so much uncertainty. Do you think it's the right idea right now for him to execute this at this moment, especially with just so much uncertainty?
I think it's the right move on the Texans' part. I mean, you have to see at the moment. I mean, you can't play for 3 weeks and then he get pulled and then you're having to rework your receivers and all that with another quarterback. I mean, I think Tyrod Taylor's a safe bet at this point. I would sit Deshaun until I knew what was going on.
Also, just still a lot of trade speculation, which at this moment it's still speculation. Do you feel that's another reason that they want to keep him on the sideline just to try and avoid any major injury?
I think they're trying to work out legal. They're trying to see the legal deals go before they make a decision because I don't think they want to play him and then, like I said earlier, have to pull him because of the legal issues. I think they're doing their own investigation themselves as an organization before they put him on the field and have to pull him.
Well, it is certain right.
It just saves.
It is certain right now that. Sorry.
I think they're going to trade him in the end.
I think it's very possible that the trade's still open. I do feel that they're just doing their homework, and especially with the FBI doing their own investigation in the matter, right now there's just so much uncertainty, and I think the best thing for the organization and Watson right now is just to let him ride the bench for a while until this thing gets a little more clear and we can get better intake on it.
Totally agree. I mean, I would do it if I was the exec.
But do you feel comfortable enough with Tyrod Taylor handling the load right now? And do you think that there might be a chance that they try and bring in the other rookie that they drafted this year from Stanford?
I think they're comfortable with Tyrod Taylor just because he has started in the NFL. It's not like he's always been a backup. He has played meaningful games in the NFL. So I think that's why they're so comfortable with Tyrod Taylor as their starter, just because of that simple fact.
And it will definitely be an interesting scenario as that continues to be monitored. And the Texans right now predicted to finish last in most of the predictions from most of the major representatives looking at the games this year. Also, in the major news today, still no interest in Cam Newton, where it was already described that most teams are just shying away from him for various reasons. Some being injuries, some being just potential attitude problem, and even just from people watching how he played last year is certainly turning teams away at this point. Do you think there's a market out there for Cam Newton right now? And if so, is it a viable one that could potentially help him contend?
I think it's going to turn into the same situation. You know, Cam, before he went to New England, he sat for weeks before somebody signed him. And now I think it's going to turn into that because Cam, there is a risk you take with Cam that he's going to cause drama in the locker room. Because the comments he says after he was released from the Patriots, it says there's not 32 guys better than me. Well, I mean, you know, you can't. I mean, I think Bill Belichick knows if he was better than Mac Jones. I mean, the guy's won 7 Super Bowl rings. I mean,
and it definitely seems.
I mean, that's just my opinion, but I think you're taking a risk signing him just the simple fact of morale in the locker room.
And it definitely seems that there's just, if anyone was going to make the move, I felt that the Washington football team was going to be the team. Just with the relationship with Ron Rivera, they already have a very stout defense. that a lot of people are possibly ranking in the top 5 to finish this year. And they have some good pieces at wide receiver and even at running back. So with Ryan Fitzpatrick, you know what you're getting. You're getting an average quarterback that sometimes shines and sometimes really just falls flat. So if not there, what team could possibly come calling for Cam Newton, if any?
That's a hard one there. I mean, maybe New Orleans. Maybe. I mean, if Jameis Winston starts out and can't hit the broadside of a barn in the game, I mean, New Orleans may be a spot that they look at to sign him. But Jameis could come out and do like he did in the preseason and throw lights out. I mean, it's just a hit or miss with them. Other than New Orleans, I really don't see another viable spot that needs somebody that has the desperate mentality of I need another quarterback.
Agreed. And it may end up being in a backup role, but I know the Cowboys have been mentioned, and I believe even the Houston Texans have been quietly mentioned, but I don't think they want to take that chance right now. So once again, just another we'll see scenario as we go forward. And moving on to the next story. Next up, we've got Pittsburgh is working to finalize a deal with TJ Watt. Hopefully they can get this done, because if not, he could possibly miss the season opener because he's willing to sit out until he gets a pay raise. Do you think this is a good tactic, or do you think that this might backfire, especially knowing the history with Pittsburgh and free agents?
Me personally, I think TJ Watt has earned his extension, big extension, because I mean he's gone to the league in this past few years. So I think I'd give him the extension because he's a Pro Bowl defensive end.
Agreed.
But, good point. Pittsburgh's recent history with free agents is not good. They've let some really good players go because of how they do free agency. So I think it's definitely a story to watch, because they could potentially let a really good player get out of there once again.
And that seems to definitely be the trend with Pittsburgh. Notoriously, it seems they lose their best guys just because they're not willing to bend a little to give them the money that they've earned. And TJ Watt, if they do let him go, really, their edge department's really going to be bare after that.
It really is.
And then our final NFL news story, breaking that Zach Martin will miss Thursday night's opener against the Bucs. Unfortunately, he contracted COVID, and he's now being put on the mandatory wait list, and unfortunately probably won't be back maybe till week 3. So as we go forward, as the season gets ready to start, one of my concerns is that you're going to see a lot of outbreaks, possibly maybe in the next couple of weeks, especially with teams traveling closer to the South area. Do you think that the NFL is concerned about this, and they might try and catch this before it gets out of hand?
I think so. I would say yay and nay, just because I think they're going to try their best to catch it before it gets bad, but I don't know if they can completely do that with teams going all over the place in the first few weeks of the season. I mean, you got a lot of cross-country trips and all that going on. I mean, you think about Arizona coming to Nashville. You got the Titans going to Seattle. I mean, you got teams going all over the place. So I don't think they can catch it. I don't think they can completely nip it in the bud before it happens, just because of the travel. I think there will be things that the NFL does to try to.
Do you think if it might come down to it, if it does get a little bad or it gets worse at any point at that time, that the NFL might consider possibly doing a temporary bubble for some of these teams, just to try and keep these things?
I think it's always a possibility, but I think the NFL and the way the NBA did it, I think it's going to be hard for the NFL to do it like they did because I think there's a lot more personnel with the NFL than there is the NBA.
I definitely agree.
There's
And
so, I mean, it's. I don't think it's possible to do a bubble like they did with how many people is involved with the NFL.
it is hard saying in theory, but one idea that I've been kind of kicking around where you do have 32 teams, you could potentially just split that up in between possibly maybe putting certain teams just in certain stadiums in certain areas. Let's say you use 12 stadiums in certain cities where they can actually house two teams.
Yeah.
But it's really going to be hard to see what happens as we go through. Hopefully the NFL can just keep this thing under control, especially with fans in there. The main goal is just we want to see the fans enjoy themselves and be safe, along with the players and the coaches and everyone involved.
Yeah. I think the main deal is going to be not so much the open air stadiums. I think it's going to be more so the domes, and like
Agreed.
the Vikings and the Atlanta. But they can open their roof, so that is better than being enclosed.
But hopefully this won't be a major issue and we can get through this NFL season unscathed without any problems. All right, everybody. That's the end of our first segment. When we come back after this 30-second break, we're going to break down be careful what you believe in. It's important to remember when looking ahead in the season, sometimes the season doesn't play out the way you want it to. And I'll explain why. We'll be back in 30 seconds. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Back in 30. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and joining me tonight is Titans Mafia. Thank you once again for joining me, sir.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me.
And jumping back into it, we're going to break down segment 2. NFL season, it's easy to get mixed up and start jumping ahead and looking at games and even talking about Super Bowls. That's just part of the fun of it. That's part of just being fans and enjoying ourselves as we go throughout the season. But unfortunately, sometimes we look too far ahead. And sometimes seasons don't work our way the way they need to. I bring this up because I remember, especially going back to 2009, how hype everyone was, and the fact that we were ready to go into a Super Bowl year, potentially after coming up short in an AFC divisional round against the Baltimore Ravens in 2008. The pieces were set. Chris Johnson was ready to take the league by storm. Kerry Collins was proven to be a reliable quarterback. And the defense, even without a gone Albert Hainsworth, who left to be with Washington, you still felt good enough that this team was able to compete and potentially win a Super Bowl. So, starting with this season, it was a primetime game against the Pittsburgh Steelers at Pittsburgh on September 10th of 2009. And that's where this whole story starts. Unfortunately, for the Tennessee Titans, it went down to overtime, and they ended up losing 10-13. Easy to realize that it was just losing one game, and it was potentially one of those situations where you felt, well, we could probably bounce back from it. but then everything starts to get a little hairy. And I'm sure you remember this, Titans Mafia. It was a big year. Everybody was hyped. And you had to feel like this was probably going to be their year.
I feel, I really felt like that was the year we were going to do it. Just because, we had the personnel. We had, everything was lining up. I mean, you look at other teams that did it, we were the same. They had the personnel. They had the big stars. They had everything in a row. And then when it didn't happen, it was like, what happened? Like,
well,
what,
it's one of those situations where injuries definitely took a part of it. Kerry Collins was really truly showing his age. Because after the Pittsburgh game, September 20th came, and it was a matchup against Houston at home. And Houston was pretty good right then. They had a pretty good defense, and their offense was kind of clicking along. But unfortunately, Tennessee fell just a few points short, 34-31. Home loss. Starting out 0-2. But then you've got the Jets at an away game. And Brett Favre's still playing. So you kind of feel like, well, this might potentially be a win. It might not. But unfortunately, once again, they fell short, 17-24 on the road. And then the next week at Jacksonville, they fell 37-17 on the road. Another road game with Indy, 31-9. If anyone remembers that game. But here's the one that basically just crushed every Titans fan's soul. And if I'm talking about 2009, you know the game I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Foxborough, Massachusetts, October 18th. It was snowing.
Yes.
An ungodly amount of snow was coming down.
I call it the Blizzard game.
It was the Blizzard Massacre.
It was basically, I was ready for any craziness to happen after that, how much snow was on the ground. I was like, I have no idea what's fixing to happen in this game.
You felt like there's probably going to be a good game by Chris Johnson. A lot of snow. They're probably going to pound the rock.
Well, I knew it was going to be whoever had the best run game that night because of how much snow was coming down. And I felt good about it.
Everybody felt good about it until after the first possession. Mm-hmm. And the game went by so quick, there wasn't even many highlights to even talk about. At the end, it was a 59-0 drubbing by New England.
I was just sitting there like, what did I just watch? Like, this is not our team. Like, this is not what I expected at all.
And just like you and many other Titans fans, it just, no one knew what the hell was going on. Mm-hmm. This was literally just everything falling apart at the seams. Our worst fears were coming true.
I still, to this day, don't know how that happened.
But even then, there was still some light at the end of the tunnel. As bad as that season started, Tennessee went on and won their next 5 games after the bye week.
Mm-hmm.
They're still the only team in the NFL to have ever lost 6 straight and then win 5.
Mm-hmm.
And through all the bad, they still had a chance to make the playoffs.
They did.
They literally had a great chance to make it, and I think it was up until week 16 where they played the Chargers, and the Chargers embarrassed them.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 42-17, and that basically just put a nail in the coffin. But on the bright side, Chris Johnson was racking up yards.
Oh, yeah. He was having the season of his life. I mean, But he just didn't have any other help, basically.
And it was one of those situations where Vince Young came back in and he was doing pretty good, especially after they'd replaced Collins.
Mm-hmm.
And it earned him a Pro Bowl nod.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the year, they ended up finishing 8-8. Chris Johnson led the league in yards rushing. He broke over 2,000. I believe he was the sixth player at the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So there was the light points there.
Yeah.
And even after everything was said and done, you still were disappointed because this was supposed to team to break through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the one thing I'm trying to preach to everybody going forward through this season. It's easy to get excited with hype.
It seems eerily similar to that year.
It can have shades. It does feel like there's little shades there.
Yeah.
And I'm very hesitant to try and claim anything. For the sake of just doing this, I don't mind having an opinion. But it's really hard for me to want to move ahead on games.
Now I will say this. I think that this team is better than that team. Personnel.
I definitely agree with that. You
So
feel
it's just like I think we have a lot better personnel. Now they had a good personnel on that team, but I think this team is loaded with talent at every position, except maybe a couple. But I think we're a lot more talented. I'll say that.
I will argue that maybe the only spot that probably lined up better was the offensive line in 2009. That offensive line was stout.
I agree with that. I agree.
Now, you put that offensive line on this year's team, they're winning the Super Bowl. There's no argument.
Not even close.
Because you had Jack Stewart, you had Kevin Mawai, Eugene Amano, Michael Ruse. That offensive line was ungodly.
It was good.
And
it was good.
I just urge fans, as exciting as it is, and as much as we want to jump on the Super Bowl bandwagon, I just encourage everybody, just enjoy the ride. Take it a game by game basis. We know where we want to get to, and that's always going to be the end game. That should be every fan's end game.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't jump ahead. Sometimes you just got to enjoy the ride and let it play out. Because, I look at the calendar, and there's just so many great matchups. And part of the fun of all of it is just enjoying whatever these results are going to come through. And probably some of the most amazing plays we're probably going to see this year.
I agree.
How many more Derrick Henry stiff arms are we going to see this year? How many great A.J. Brown or Julio Jones touchdown catches are we going to see?
I hope a lot.
How many game-winning drives? That's just part of the enjoyment process. Mm-hmm. So I just urge everyone watching, take it with a grain of salt. Don't rush anything. The biggest thing is it's a process. We all want to get to the Super Bowl. We all want to win the Super Bowl. But let's not just jump ahead. Mm-hmm. Enjoy the ride. And we'll get there when we get there. I don't have any doubt about getting there. It's just, if you got to wait, we'll wait.
Yeah, I agree.
But before I put the 2009 team to bed, was there anything that really stood out to you that you could remember besides CJ's obvious 2,000-yard rush? What was the one thing about that team that really just gave you hope going forward?
I think, when you referenced it, when they lost 6 straight, the resiliency to come back and win 5 straight. A lot of teams would have just packed it in and said, "Oh, we'll just get better next year." I know a lot of teams would have done that, and for them to come out and go on a win streak like that, it just showed how resilient they were, and they weren't going to stop fighting till the end. So that just stood out to me about that team.
I definitely agree. And I really felt just the fight that they did put up was just some of the better memories that we did get to enjoy. Because
Mm,
after that season, Tennessee just had a drought up until
they did.
2016. Because that was
Mm-hmm.
the last season that they were really, truly competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, everybody, enjoy this while we got it.
I agree.
Because I'm not trying to say anything. Knock on wood. Don't want any jinxes. None of that stuff. I don't want to go through another 7-year drought.
No, no.
Nobody wants to relive the Rustin Webster years.
No.
So just enjoy it, guys. We're there. We'll get there. It's just about the
Mm,
process.
I agree.
Well, all right, everybody. Gonna dive into a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, one Tennessee Titan each. We'll pick one that we think deserves a total redo. Tennessee Mafia will choose his, and I'll choose mine. We'll be back in 30 seconds. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Back in 30. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. Hope you're having a great Labor Day. Hope you're just staying safe, and if you're drinking a little bit, just make sure, be safe if you have to get a ride home. Got Titans Mafia joining us tonight. Thank you very much for joining us on the show, buddy.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me.
All right, guys. And I definitely want to let Titans Mafia let you know where to find him at. So go ahead, Titans Mafia. Share to the people where to find you at.
On Twitter, you can go to @MafiasTitan. Uh, I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, same username. Yeah, I would appreciate everybody following me, hitting the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Anything you can do to help.
He's going to make you a deal you can't refuse. He's the Titans Mafia. Check him out today. And also, while you're watching the show, don't forget, if you like the show, help it grow. Please like and subscribe today. I'm always at Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch at ThePower615. And letting you know that this coming Tuesday, I'll be dropping a PowerPoint. A PowerPoint will be basically a 4-minute video where I just drop my intentional thoughts of whatever's going on in the news today. Just basically throwing out some small tidbits until our official Monday show. That'll get you to where we gotta go. Well, alright, jumping into our third segment tonight. There's many players that we've seen come through the Tennessee Titans era that we would love to see have a redo. And there's countless. So I let Titans Mafia start. Who's the one player he feels deserves a redo, and how does he think it would play out if they'd get it? So Titans Mafia, the floor is yours.
My former player is a very recent one. I think that we should have re-signed Corey Davis. He did a lot for us last year and the year before. And I think he's going to do big things with the Jets. And so I think about it. And I know we couldn't have because of cap and all that with Julio and all that, but Corey Davis, along with Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, Chester Rogers, all those guys, think about that. Your 5 guy could be a 1 or a 2 somewhere else if you had Corey Davis. That's crazy in the NFL. I mean, think about how much he produced and helped us win ball games last year to complement Derrick Henry. And he's going to do it with the Jets. I'm telling you, this year he probably will be a Pro Bowl receiver for the Jets.
So you feel even adding Corey Davis to the lineup, you'd probably have to keep him possibly just as a deep threat. But the best part about Julio and AJ are they can interchange on either position in the wide receiving lineup.
Uh huh. I think you can switch them. You can throw AJ in the slot when you need to. I mean, you can throw Julio's probably going to stay more outside, but you can put him in certain situations in the slot. It's a matchup problem.
And I agree. But if there's anything that you would want him to improve on, especially in this redo, what's the one thing that you believe that he would do better if he would get a second chance?
I think he could do a better job of one thing that I think he could do better at is being versatile in the fact of you can run him on jet sweeps and he can be a deep threat the next play. I think we didn't utilize him as good as we could in that aspect of handing him the ball out of the backfield on jet sweeps and stuff like that. If I could do this redo, I would utilize him that way as well as deep threat.
Also, it just seemed that, especially last year, he was really just starting to get in his groove.
I agree.
Literally, he almost broke for 1,000 yards and was very pivotal, especially in the playoffs the previous year.
Hmm. Well, that's why I say you watch him this year with the Jets. The man may have over 1,000 yards receiving this year. I'm telling you,
And possibly a Pro Bowl nod.
I agree. I'm totally there.
But I would say, especially trying to keep him, do you think he would have taken a pay cut?
No, I don't think so. Just because he is valuable enough to somebody else to be a one or a two elsewhere.
Agreed. And of course, you just have to take into consideration, especially the shelf life of some of these guys. They only
Mhm.
get an opportunity to make their money, so
Yeah,
it's understandable he went to New York.
I can't blame him. I don't blame him at all. Just me as a Titans fan, I wish we could have kept him, but I understand why he left.
But before I start on mine, what would you say was Corey Davis's shining moment as a Tennessee Titan?
Oh gosh, there's so many. Uh,
I know you got to pick one, and that's a tough feat, but you can only have one.
I just think his constant. I don't necessarily would say one game, but I think his consistency every game. You would see Tannehill go to him in tough situations. That spoke to his ability as a player to develop trust with his quarterback. Like Coach Vrabel said in the past few weeks about Mason Kinsey, about why Barkley and Woodside would target him every third down. They would throw to him. It's because they trusted him and they knew he would catch the ball when they needed him to. Corey Davis, if you go back and look at the film from last year, in third and medium or third and long, he would go to Corey Davis a lot of times because AJ would be double covered. They'd have the safety over the top of AJ. He would go to Corey because he knew he would make the play. And I just think that's his defining moment of last season is he was the playmaker in those situations.
Definitely a lot of game-winning situations, but if I had to choose one, just from my perspective, it'd definitely have to be the game winner against the Eagles.
I agree. That was a good one. I almost picked that one, but I didn't want to go all in on one.
I mean, you had that one, and then you had the Jets, and it's kind of
Yeah.
tough to pick between both of them because
Mhm.
both of them were game winners, and he had, I think, I believe he had 4 throughout his career with the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
But it would be a very interesting redo. And I wouldn't mind seeing him on the line with Julio and AJ.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be scary as hell.
Yeah, but it would be matchup problems.
That'd be serious matchup problems. They already lost the box, and they've got to go after those two. Yep. You add him to the mix, it's over.
You just pick your way you want to die.
Yeah, pick your poison. That's it.
You pick the way you want to get beat. I mean, basically.
I would love to see that, but it goes back to one of those what if scenarios. But it's fun to think about.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna choose mine now,
right.
And the one player I would love to see a redo, and there's so much controversy marred around him. I just feel he's the one guy I think if he found the right people and was around the right person at the right time, maybe things definitely would have been different. And that's a lot of what ifs, but this is a what if scenario. That's the fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
And my guy would be Albert Hainsworth.
It's a good one.
And Albert had a lot of problems even after he'd been drafted.
Mm-hmm.
There are just a lot of situations with domestic violence. There was a lot of situations with speeding, endangerment, and the list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's just one of those situations where I see it as one of those things where sometimes we're the company that you keep. And I think there were some shady characters that he was around, especially throughout his career.
I think that's a downfall for real.
And I'm not trying to judge the man. I mean, you're gonna do what you want to do. You're an adult. That's fine. But you only get this opportunity, and so few people get this opportunity.
Yeah.
And the one thing I really appreciate the NFL doing now is getting to these younger players and explaining to them what it's like to be an NFL player and the responsibilities and the privileges that it carries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you are doing something that very few people ever get to experience. You're getting paid to play a game. You're getting paid to play a game.
You're the 1%.
You're good
to play in the NFL.
And most of you probably won't make it through 3 years.
No.
And that to me was just a heartbreaking thing about Albert Hainsworth. He really started hitting his stride when Jim Schwartz took over.
I agree.
And when Jim Schwartz got a hold of him, you really saw his potential. Even after the head stomping incident with Andre Gerard back in 2006, I felt that they really just got him to sit down. I think Jeff Fisher and Schwartz talked to him and basically explained to him, you know, he's got a great opportunity to be one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. They saw it. And then in 2008, he went out and he blew up.
Yep.
Without any doubt in my mind, the best stats he ever put up in his career. And that set him up for his ultimate payday with the Washington football team, which then was about $100 million deal, and I believe about $40 million was guaranteed. And the crazy thing was, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers apparently were going to pay him more.
Yeah.
From a report that he said back in 2015, they were going to pay him about $120 million and about $50 million a year.
Golly.
And what happened in the whole scenario was, apparently Mike Shanahan was just trying to get him to be a doorstop for his linebackers. And the whole system just turned him away from football. His words.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it goes back to what you said. I mean, his downfall, I think, was he was hanging around the wrong people. And I think the whole thing with his new contract was that shows his worth that they were willing to pay him that much money, even though what happened with Tennessee.
But one thing you have to look at is, especially a guy in his situation, sometimes money's not going to matter if you don't fit in the system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're a round peg trying to
If you
fit in
don't,
if you're a round peg fitting in a square hole, you're not going to work.
yeah,
And that's the situation I felt he was in.
uh-huh. If you're in that situation, you have to know that teams are going to look at that. I mean, when they're looking at signing you, they're looking at everything. I mean, I just don't. I do like the NFL are explaining to these younger players about this entire. Be thankful for where you are, because not a lot of people get to be where you are, and be careful what you're involved in because it can be taken away from you
Agreed.
quickly. So, but yeah,
Well,
that's a good pick. I like that player. He's on my top 5 of who I could bring back.
but to me, I just feel it's just one of the heartbreaking stories that we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
I felt everything was in place for him to be successful here. I think
I
with
agree.
Jim Schwartz and with his track record of the guys that he's coached,
Mm-hmm.
from Ndamukong Suh all the way down,
Yeah,
that he was able to get these guys and be competitive with them.
I agree.
And really, I don't blame him for going after the money.
I don't either.
Daniel Snyder was a big problem even at that time, and he would go after guys that wouldn't fit in the system that was being run at all. He wanted to be the guy that got flashy players,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really what it boiled down to. And even now, with Albert Hainsworth going through his situation right now, and there's just so much things that you read, and it's just disheartening. You hope that things will get better for him, and he can get the help that he deserves and needs.
I agree. I do too.
But both good picks. Hopefully yours definitely gets the opportunity to shine on a brighter stage, and hopefully mine just is able to get help, especially down the road, before it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right, everybody, that's the end of the third segment. We'll take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, we've got a full slate of NFL games to break down. Titans Mafia and I will pick our favorites, and we'll let you know who our locks of the week are and our potential upsets. I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Back in 30. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and joining me tonight is Titans Mafia. Thanks for joining us tonight, buddy. We're having a great time tonight.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me.
Well, all right, guys. It's that time of the week. We're right on the cusp of the NFL season beginning. And you know what time that means. It means it's time for us to break down our NFL games. So we'll go ahead and pull up our little schedule. And we will break them down as following. And we'll shrink ourselves so y'all can see it. All right. So breaking down week 1. As we can see, the inaugural kickoff game will begin in Tampa Bay, matching up against the Dallas Cowboys. 8:20 on NBC this Thursday. So, Titans Mafia, who do you like in this matchup?
The Bucks in a runaway.
I
got the Bucks winning pretty handily.
And who's your pick of the game that's going to shine?
Chris Godwin.
Good pick.
I think he has a minimum of 2 touchdowns and a route. I don't think it's going to be close.
All right. Titans Mafia saying we got a route on our hands. I will say also that the Bucs are going to win, but I think it'll probably be just throughout maybe a 6-point game.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tom Brady's going to be your guy that shines. I think he's going to get the ball around a little bit to everybody, especially since he's only played 1 preseason game. So you're probably going to see him stretch the ball out.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dak Prescott has a decent game. I think Ezekiel Elliott will get about at least 100 yards, but I don't think it's going to be enough to win.
Mm-hmm.
Jump into our next game, and this is 1 o'clock game on CBS. You've got the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Definitely a potential playoff matchup. Go ahead, Titans Mafia. Who do you like in this one?
I like the Bills by 7. It's in Buffalo. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. I think it's just going to be too much for Pittsburgh at this point. I got the Bills by 7.
I will also go the Bills, but I will say they're going to win by at least 13.
All right.
I think Najee Harris will shine for the Steelers. I think he'll get about 100 yards and about a touchdown. But the Buffalo defense is going to shine in this one, helping set up Josh Allen, which I think will throw about 4 touchdown passes.
All right.
Moving to our next game, we've got the Bengals and the Vikings, 1 o'clock Eastern on Fox. Go ahead, Titans Mafia.
Vikings by 10.
All right. And who would be your star player?
Dalvin Cook.
Good choice.
I think just handles it pretty.
All right, and I'm just looking at my cheat sheet. I have Minnesota winning that game as well. I still am very questionable about Joe Burrow's protection. I think everybody's going to have an eye on the left tackle side. Can he stay protected? Mm-hmm. But Kirk Cousins, I'm still on the fence about. I don't know if he's going to potentially be the guy that's going to get them over the hump. Mm-hmm. But like you said, I think Dalvin Cook has a good day, and Minnesota's defense is stout, and I like that. All right, and then we got this mess. 1 o'clock on CBS. We've got the Texans and the Jaguars. Feel free if you can.
Jags by a touchdown late.
And who's going to shine in that game?
Trevor Lawrence.
Easy. I will also go the Jaguars, and I honestly think this is going to be so bad. This is going to be a very low-scoring affair. Mm-hmm. So you may potentially see a 13-10 victory from the Jaguars.
I agree.
I will skip the Titans and the Cardinals for the end. And we'll go to the next 1 o'clock game on Fox, and this will be the Falcons and the Eagles. So which of the bird teams do you like?
I'm going to go Eagles here, and simply because of Jalen Hurts. I think he shines in that game.
All right, I can see that. I'm going to go the opposite way. I will say Arthur Smith will win his debut and pull an upset against the Philadelphia Eagles. I still think Matt Ryan is a capable thrower.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be an air show, to be honest. So you're going to see a high-scoring affair. But at the end, where experience beats out youth, I like the Falcons here.
All right.
Next 1 o'clock game on CBS, we have the Panthers and the Jets. This being a Sam Darnold homecoming. Who do you like in this one?
I'm going to go Carolina by a field goal late.
And who's going to shine in this one?
Christian McCaffrey, if he plays.
Good choice. I will also go with Carolina, but I'll say Sam Darnold gets the last laugh on this one. Go ahead.
Watch out for Elijah Moore in that game as well for the Jets.
Agreed. Then moving to our next game, 1 o'clock Eastern on Fox. We've got the 49ers and the Detroit Lions.
49ers by 17.
Who's going to be the star of the game?
I'm going to say Debo Samuel.
All right. And I also have the 49ers. And I'm going to go defense on this one. So keep an eye on Bosa. I think he's going to get about 3 sacks in the fumble recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got another 1 o'clock game on Fox. You've got the Colts and the Seahawks. Who do you like in this one, Titans Mafia?
Seahawks by 7 late. DK Metcalf winning touchdown.
I will also go the Seahawks, and I will take this one a step further. This is my lock of the week.
Yeah.
So, lock it, stock it, rock it. Done. Then, our final 1 o'clock game of the afternoon, you'll have the Los Angeles Chargers and the Washington football team. Who do you like in this one, Titans Mafia?
Chargers get a field goal late to win.
And who's
Herbert?
And who's your star for the game?
Herbert.
All right.
I got him. Mm-hmm.
I will go Chargers in overtime.
Ooh. All right.
And I will also go Herbert. Mm-hmm. But he will have a few struggles throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
Then for our next matchups, we've got in the afternoon games, 4:25 Eastern on Fox, you've got the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints. Who do you like in this one?
This is my lock for the week. I got Green Bay in a rout.
In a rout.
This game will be over midway through the third quarter.
And your MVP for that game?
Aaron Rodgers.
All right. I will also go Green Bay, but I will say it's going to be a little closer. I think Jameis Winston actually surprises and keeps up. So you're going to see a close one, at least until the fourth quarter, and Green Bay runs away with it. Also on Fox, you'll have the Giants and the Denver Broncos. Who do you like, Titans Mafia?
Denver, and my impact of the week would be their defense.
All right. I'm going to go the opposite way and go with the Giants. I think Daniel Jones is going to shine in this game, and Saquon Barkley will help tote the rock.
Mm-hmm.
Then going forward, we're going to have our Sunday night matchup, which will consist of the Bears and the Rams. Who do you got, Titans Mafia?
Rams. Defense. Defense. I don't think the Bears can score more than 14 on them.
I will also go the Rams, and I believe Matthew Stafford will be the player of the game in that one. I did miss the 4:25 game, and I apologize for that. You've got the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins, which is the matchup of the two Alabama quarterbacks, Mac Jones and Tua Tagovailoa.
I'm going Patriots late.
All right. Who's your MVP in that one?
Mac Jones.
All right. Here's my upset. I have got Miami winning with a field goal.
Ooh.
So that will be my upset of the week. Miami winning with a last-minute field goal. And then our final game that we'll be talking about, Baltimore and Las Vegas.
I got Baltimore. Lamar Jackson takes up the game.
I will agree with that. I will go Baltimore and Lamar Jackson as well. And then finally, we'll do a quick breakdown of the Titans and the Arizona Cardinals, which will be a 1 o'clock game on CBS.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Titans Mafia. The floor is yours.
This game is going to be close for probably a quarter of the way through the fourth quarter. and I think the Titans pull away late. Derrick Henry takes over. We win 24-14.
All right. And I will say that you're going to see a very close game, especially on the offenses. I think it's going to be about 21-21 until the fourth quarter, but eventually it'll come down to last-minute field goal, which the Titans will luckily get possession, and Sam Ficken, our new kicker, will be kicking for the win. Titans win 24-21, game opener. All right, guys, that is week 1, and we will see how that goes. I'd like to thank Titans Mafia for joining us tonight. We've had a great time with you, buddy. Thanks for joining us on the show, and we definitely want to get you back as soon as we can.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. I appreciate what all you guys do, and tighten up.
Definitely want to make sure you get a shout-out to the fans to let them know where to find you.
Mafia Titans on Twitter and Titans Mafia on YouTube and Instagram. And I appreciate it if you'd give me a follow and a like and subscribe on YouTube and tighten up.
You heard the man. Go follow him. You know what to do. Titans Mafia, thanks for joining us tonight, buddy. We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.
And everybody else, I want to thank you for joining us tonight on the Power Hour. It has been a great show. We had a great time with our guest Titans Mafia. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. And I definitely want to let you know that if you want to follow the Power Hour, we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Follow us at the Power Hour 615. And another reminder to let you know that PowerPoints will be dropping tomorrow, sometime between this afternoon. Those will be 4-minute segments where I just break down the news of the day, especially NFL or Titans related. So once again, I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Have a great night, and an even better tomorrow. But I almost forgot. And I just remembered this. If you're still watching, and you haven't left yet, make sure you check out the Titan Rossi show tonight. He will be on at 9 o'clock, and I will be guest starring on that as well. So he will have his show on tonight at 9 Eastern, and I will be on there with him, and he'll be breaking down the Tennessee Titans schedule as we go through each game individually and give our predictions. So make sure you catch Titan Rossi's show tonight at 9 Eastern. But once again, I'm Michael Bishop with the Power Hour. Have a great night, and an even better tomorrow. Take care.